A new promise to San Diegans hit with abnormally high water bills. How they'll have peace of mind as regulators try to find out what's going on.
We have a system where we allow communities to take 10 or 15 years to put together a housing plan, and then very little housing gets built as a result.
California's housing crisis is calling into question a bedrock principle of state law. What could be the most ambitious housing bill in Sacramento?
One of the challenges in this work is that when we record sounds in the ocean, we don't always know what it is that it's producing those sounds.
Playing Dr. Dolittle at Birch Aquarium, the sounds of fish and what they can tell us about life under the sea. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. Low water usage and high water bills were the topic of a meeting at City Hall today. Initially, hundreds of customers were overcharged on their water bills, some as much as $11,000. It was all because of misread meters. San Diego officials now say the problem may be more widespread. KPBS reporter Jade Hyman has it more.
No one's water will be cut off. That's the word from the Public Utilities Department as they undergo an audit and customers sound off on unusually high water bills.
While a misread is possible, of course, at least on this meter, it seems unlikely.
Meet Dan Milligan. He's a Mira Mesa resident who's gone deep into his pockets to save water.
We've added all of the outside adjustments that they asked us for, including the drip system.
He's installed timers for his sprinklers, cut his usage down, and let his once lush backyard turn arid. Still, his water bill has gone up $100.
Well, it was about $140 to $150 when we started. It's now around $250 on average. But as I said, we've definitely cut our use quite a bit.
His story isn't unique.
You barely could see the tiny numbers and the little slits. Nobody could read it.
Dozens more with similar issues were at today's committee meeting where overcharged water customers were at the top of the agenda. Their stories point to a bigger problem that's more widespread.
Was the meter read at all? And that's where we cannot have any dispute with the public.
While the Public Utilities Department investigates, they've made a few changes for customers and their wallets. Until the audit is finished, no one's water will be shut off, and home water audits are now free of charge.
We should be doing this correctly. This is a basic function of government, is to send out a correct bill. And we've lost trust now with our residents.
Now the city will host 3 community workshops so customers can have their bills looked at and their concerns addressed. For more information on when and where those will be, go to kpbs.org. Jade Hindman, KPBS News.
San Diego officials have announced a major leadership change in San Diego Fire and Rescue Department. KPBS reporter Susan Murphy has more from Fire Station Number 1.
After nearly 3 decades with the San Diego Fire Rescue Department, Chief Brian Fennessy says he's resigning. He leaves here with some harrowing rescue stories and a list of accomplishments.
So this really is bittersweet. I love our firefighters, I love our lifeguards, our non-uniformed employees.
Fennessy says he was recruited for the top job in the Orange County Fire Authority, and he just couldn't pass it up. One thing he says he'll carry with him is his leadership experience during San Diego's catastrophic wildfires.
Significant improvements occurred after that. The purchase of aircraft, equipment, training.
But he'll also bring with him the life-changing experiences from the start of his career as a firefighter at Station 17 in Mid-City.
You know, countless emergencies, family tragedies, anyone in particular, not necessarily. It runs the gamut.
Fennessy joined the San Diego department in 1990 and rose through the ranks to chief 3 years ago. He's credited with implementing a helicopter program. The city now has 2 firefighting and rescue choppers with night flying capability and a 3rd on the way. He says he's also helped to improve emergency response times and recruited a more diverse force.
We've seen in just 2.5 years a more ethnically and culturally diverse fire academy, more women included in the fire academy.
One of his challenges has been his vision to fully integrate lifeguards with the fire department and giving fire crews more leeway in responding to cliff and water rescues, something some lifeguards resisted. Fennessy says that did not play a factor in his decision to resign.
Our firefighters and lifeguards work seamlessly together. I would offer up, and I've been doing this a long time, it wasn't always like that. It is better than it has ever been before.
Fennessy's last day is set for April 13th. He'll be replaced in the interim by Assistant Chief Kevin Esther, who's been with the department for 33 years. The city is opening recruitment for the job next week. Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
The recent mass shooting at a Florida school may push California to raise the age requirement for buying rifles and shotguns. State lawmakers introduced a bill that would raise the age limit to buy all firearms to 21. Current state law sets the age limit to purchase rifles and shotguns at 18. It imposes a higher age restriction of 21 on handgun sales.
But we're in California, and we have an opportunity to continue to make our community safe and to be a beacon of sanity in what has been an absolutely insane discussion.
Representatives from gun owners of California strongly oppose the measure. They say it denies people over 17 years old the constitutional rights of an adult. Federal prosecutors say it's the biggest drug money case in San Diego history. Today, they showed off evidence seized during a multi-year undercover investigation. It includes $6 million in cash and stockpiles of drugs, including heroin and fentanyl.
These drugs are driving the opiates deaths up in our region, 400 just this last year.
Prosecutors say the money laundering ring has direct ties to the Sinaloa drug cartel in Mexico. 75 people have been charged, 40 of them in the San Diego area. There's an update on the case of an asylum seeker who was at the heart of a lawsuit seeking relief for immigrant parents separated from their children. Court documents show a mother and her 7-year-old daughter arrived in San Diego a few months ago after fleeing violence in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Federal agents took away her daughter after they crossed the border. ACLU officials say the mother was released Tuesday from the Otay Mesa Detention Center. Federal agents still have her daughter at another facility in Chicago. The gas leak that forced some evacuations in Mission Valley and shut down the 163 is repaired. Some outages to homes lingered into today. Utility crews spent several hours last night working to cap the leak. They say a construction worker accidentally ruptured a gas line. For the past century, housing in California has been in the control of local governments. Mayors and city councils, not the state, have the power to decide where homes can be built and how many. But while California's economy and population have boomed, the number of houses and apartments has not kept pace. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says the state's housing crisis is prompting a radical change of thinking.
The parcels that we're walking by right now are larger.
Ginger Hitzke is an affordable housing developer in San Diego County. She's always on the hunt for land to build on.
This, I thought, would actually be a great little infill site because it's going to be right across the street from the transit stop.
We're walking around a small commercial street in Bay Park, right next to a future trolley stop that's set to open in 2021. In front of us is a strip mall with a pizza shop and a pet grooming salon. Hitzke says the lot would be a great site for new, dense housing.
This would be an ideal situation. It's likely got one owner, would be a little bit easier to deal with land acquisition. It's got good infrastructure. It's good for fire access. It's obviously good for transit.
San Diego taxpayers are spending billions of dollars on the trolley extension from Old Town to University City. But a lot of the land around the future stations is tightly restricted. The city won't let developers build too high or too densely. In 2014, city planners backed off a plan to raise the height limits in this area of Bay Park after residents raised objections. Hitzke says it's a familiar story.
It's such a familiar story. I could probably tell you the story and I didn't even have to participate in it, right? Yeah. I could tell you property values are going to decline, we're going to have higher crime, we're going to have more traffic, everyone's view is going to be blocked, the schools are going to be impacted, the children are not going to be safe to walk the streets. I can tell you, you name it, the same exact opposition comes up anytime when there's large-scale developments proposed.
A bill introduced in Sacramento would radically change the development rules around public transit stops. Cities would have to allow apartment or condo buildings of 4 to 8 stories, like these in Little Italy. They would not be able to limit density or require a minimum number of parking spots per home.
Right now, around a lot of public transportation, we have low-density zoning. So very few people can live within walking distance of transit.
State Senator Scott Wiener wrote the bill called SB 827.
And what that does is it pushes people out to live in sprawl. They have to drive everywhere. It creates gridlock on our roads, increases carbon emissions. So we're just trying to get more housing near transit. Yeah, it's an aggressive bill, and we're at the point where we need to take aggressive steps.
SB 827 has generated a lot of controversy. Some cities are calling it an affront to local control, and that local governments know best how to plan for their own growth. Wiener says cities still have plenty of latitude to plan for development under his bill. And he says local control is part of what created California's housing crisis.
The proof is in the pudding, right? We have a system where we allow communities to take 10 or 15 years to put together a housing plan, and then very little housing gets built as a result because each housing project takes years to approve and the zoning is really low. So we've tried that, and has it worked? I don't think so, because people can't afford to live in many parts of California anymore. So when you try something for many years and it keeps failing and it's just getting worse, you need to try something new, and that's what we're proposing here.
All of us know that California is experiencing a severe housing shortage.
State Assemblyman Todd Gloria last month introduced his own housing bill that aims to incentivize building smaller homes near transit stops. But his bill doesn't place any new requirements on cities. He says that was a political decision.
Right now, I think this is the biggest issue facing California, and I'm not willing to spend time having a debate about local control. Right now, we need this on the books because we have a lot of people who can't afford the rent in California.
When it comes to local control, Hitzke says the severity of the housing crisis and the fact that Wiener's bill is even being discussed is telling. She says some local governments in California have proven they simply cannot be trusted to make smart decisions on housing.
City council members are elected to make tough decisions. It's kind of the number one thing that they have to do. And if they can't do what's necessary for the community now and for the community in the future, then maybe someone else has to come in and make that decision for them.
SB 827 is still undergoing amendments. Wiener expects the first committee hearings on his bill in April. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
You may likely not be looking forward to doing your taxes this year. For some lower income filers, there's free help. Locations around the county will do your taxes for no charge. You may be eligible if you make less than $54,000. Need assistance with English or have a disability. Congressman Juan Vargas is holding a session tomorrow in Calexico. Other locations are open till tax day in April. Details and a map are available at kpbs.org. Warm winter weather continues in San Diego, but wet weather may be heading our way. Justin Povic has more in tonight's forecast.
As we look ahead toward the next couple of days, we're going to be talking about mild temperatures continuing, though a bump down as we work our way in toward Friday and especially Saturday. Talking about some sunshine into Friday, but wet conditions evolving over the course of the weekend. And notice currently here we're talking about some clouds, again, from San Diego toward Poway, La Jolla, and Chula Vista. But not talking about really anything reaching the ground in terms of precipitation. In fact, you have to go further northbound here, north of the Bay Area, till you bump into some problems along the 5. We are going to see, again, some shower conditions slide the way down throughout the state, though, as we go through time. Still some clouds for tonight, but temperatures dropping off into the mid-50s. And again, we're falling into the 40s. Again, for many spots here, Oceanside toward Poway, Alpine dropping down to 43, Mount Laguna dropping down to 42. Let's talk about Friday. Again, notice the showers still north of the Bay Area for the most part, but high pressure builds into place. We're eventually going to start to see the flow becoming a little more onshore. That means temperatures coming down a bit. But hey, we're still above normal by several degrees as we venture into tomorrow. Notice San Diego nearing 70 degrees, Oceanside 68. Again, Ramona 73, Mount Laguna, mountainous terrain. We're talking about the upper 50s. Setting it toward the weekend, though, low pressure makes its move inland, and we are going to be talking about, again, some light, steadier rains making the move on in. Snow levels very high, again, with this system dropping down to roughly around 5,000 feet. But again, on Saturday, if your travels take you outdoors, include the umbrella. We're going to be talking about some tricky travel here for a time, mainly later in the day toward the coast, and then a shower could linger right on into Sunday. Some sunshine returning here heading into next week. Inland areas topping off in the low 70s for Saturday with some rain, and then perhaps a couple of showers lingering on into Sunday. Mountainous terrain, again, it's a warm one, so the snow levels are way up there. Little afternoon rain on Saturday, high temperature 55. And notice for the desert, we're talking about little afternoon rain on Saturday, sunshine and warmer temperatures back into next week. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Povick. Back to you, Ebony.
I'm Hari Srinivasan. Tonight on the News Hour, President Trump puts steep tariffs on aluminum and steel imports into writing, sending shockwaves around the world. Coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
There's a new endorsement in the race for Darrell Issa's congressional seat. In a statement, Francine Busby, the former chair of the San Diego Democratic Party, urged Democrats to vote for candidate Mike Levin in June. None of the Democratic candidates won enough support to win an official endorsement at the state Democratic Party conference last month. As a result, there's a risk the candidates will split the votes for the 49th district race, and the party may fail to win one of the two top spots in the June primary.
Women all over the world are celebrating our power. Certainly here in California, where we've taken a leadership position in promoting women, women's issues, women's rights, that it's important for us to celebrate and come out and speak to people who are here to celebrate it with us.
Lawmakers and community leaders showed up at the state capitol to mark International Women's Day. The Legislative Women's Caucus wore red and black in honor of the event. One of the top priorities for the group focuses on getting more women elected to state offices. Women's rights took center stage today at the United Nations as well. Hollywood stars addressed the General Assembly in New York. They demanded gender equity in the entertainment business and beyond. Black Panther star says her movie resonated with millions of fans because it showed a gender equal society, and the real world hasn't caught up yet. She called on the assembly to help all women rise up.
Women are the more powerful sex, okay? Because I cannot believe the things I've heard women say they've been through, and they still keep going day by day and handle their business and take care of their children and invest in their communities and stand up and make things better for people around them.
The actresses announced the establishment of the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund. Their group has raised $20 million so far, and they say they've helped more than 1,500 women with on-the-job harassment suits against employers. The Marine Corps is adding women to its combat training course at Camp Pendleton. The integration took months of review, and no changes were made to the course. 40 women who have finished boot camp began combat training this week. Military officials say this is part of an effort to enhance the entry-level training program for all Marines. A tech entrepreneur combines learning, food, and fun. In tonight's SciTech Report, reporter Maddie Orton says she's taking her tech kitchen on the road.
A special restaurant is popping up in cities across the country. Sue's Tech Kitchen teaches kids science, technology, engineering, and math through a universally loved medium, snacks. The unique space is the brainchild of Randy Zuckerberg, head of Zuckerberg Media and creator of the kids' TV show Dot, which features a young, tech-savvy girl who loves problem solving.
I have a real passion for creating girl characters that help to inspire. And I kept dreaming up this girl, Sue, who loves cooking and loves science. She's always thinking of these zany ways to combine the two, you know, blowing up stuff in her kitchen and inventing things. And I thought, well, Sue wouldn't have a TV show. She'd have a restaurant. She would invite her friends to come to her kitchen and see how she's 3D printing chocolate and putting different ingredients together in wild ways. And so we decided, all right, we're just going to open her restaurant. And here we are.
Zuckerberg hasn't put a face to her character because she doesn't want to define what a tech kitchen entrepreneur looks like. But she is adamant that a female name be on the marquee.
Because I think in today's society, you walk into, it's like Mickey Mouse, Willy Wonka, Chuck E. Cheese, anything that's fun and innovative has boy's name on the marquee. I want boys and girls alike to have an amazing time in this space, and they will, but I think it does something to the psychology of little girls to know, okay, I'm going to a high-tech space, and there's a girl's name on it.
And Sue's Tech Kitchen is high-tech. There are virtual reality and 4D video stations, Pipercraft kits that teach kids engineering through the game Minecraft, and Cubetto, a wooden robot from the toy company Primo that teaches the basics of coding. Of course, it wouldn't be a tech kitchen without food. Kids can do edible science experiments, make selfie cookies, and even 3D print pancakes and s'mores. As of now, Sue's Tech Kitchen won't be a permanent fixture in any one city. The restaurant is a pop-up experience on a nationwide tour. Zuckerberg sees a strong STEM education as key for the job seekers of the future, and she fears that millions of kids across the country without access to a solid STEM education or even reliable Wi-Fi could be left behind.
So I've always thought, okay, how do we introduce more girls, more children in rural areas of the country to tech in a way that feels approachable and accessible and fun? Because if you can't kind of force kids to go to the tech, sometimes you have to bring it to them.
Zuckerberg is a parent herself, so she knows what technology children find cool. And she also knows why the word technology sometimes makes parents cringe.
Parents are really divided on the role of tech in their own household. They know that they need to introduce tech to their kids, but then they're worried about too much screen time. So one of my big visions for the space is I wanted to show that there are thousands of ways to introduce children to technology that never once involves a screen.
Zuckerberg says Sue's Tech Kitchen will continue to grow and change as it tours the country. Already, more activity stations have been introduced, and evening hours have been added so adults can get in on the fun.
We had, young adults come on date nights and things, and we'd talk to them and say, okay, why are you here? We build this as a family experience, and they would say, well, I really want to learn about tech too, and this seemed like a really approachable, fun way to learn about it. So we're opening up on Friday nights for 21+. So you can come, have a cocktail, enjoy the space.
And do something you can't really do at a fancy restaurant. Play with your food.
Susie's Tech Kitchen will set up shop in 10 cities over this year. You can go to susiestechkitchen.com to sign up for more details. Well, most 2-year-olds can probably tell you what sounds dogs and cats make, but ask them what a fish says and they'll probably be stumped. KPBS reporter Claire Tragesser says a local scientist is trying to answer that question, which could be key to understanding more about the ocean.
What fish sounds like this? Or like this? That's what Anna Sharovich, a researcher at the Marine Bioacoustics Lab at Scripps Institution of Oceanography, is trying to find out.
Everybody knows that whales make sound. That seems to be common knowledge. But usually when I tell people I study fish sounds as well, they give me strange looks.
Sharovich and her graduate students have been recording sounds in the kelp beds off La Jolla shores for a few years. But there was a problem.
One of the challenges in this work is that when we record sounds in the ocean, we don't always know what it is that it's producing those sounds.
So, for example, Sharovich recorded this fish. but she doesn't know what fish makes that sound. So she got some new equipment, 4 underwater microphones coupled with a camera.
We can localize each sound that we record. We can determine the location of where it is, and then we look at the camera pictures that we have to see what was in that area.
Last week, she tested out the equipment in the kelp tank at the Birch Aquarium. It helps her to narrow down what fish might be making noises, since there are only a few species of fish in the tank. The goal of this, Shirovich says, is to be able to identify fish by their sounds, which will help scientists learn where fish gather and breed and which marine areas should be protected.
Then we can learn something about what areas these fish, and some of them are commercially important species, what areas they find important and where they gather to do these biologically important functions.
Plus, she might be able to help 2-year-olds of the future answer the important question of what does a fish say? Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.